one-digit numbers. We're on Chapter 2, Lesson 9. This lesson is, we're going to be using what we did yesterday, which was finding estimates, in order to actually find the exact answer today. Okay, so, and just like yesterday's problems, you're going to have one number that's a two-digit number or sometimes a three-digit number, and you're going to be multiplying it by a one-digit number on the bottom. So today's lesson should be a review for you from last year, maybe even a little bit from third grade. So we're finding the exact answer today. That is what we're doing. So exactly what we did yesterday, not exactly, because yesterday we found estimates. So today we're finding the exact answers. So 2 or 3 digits on the top, 1 digit on the bottom. Yeah, so that's why it's by 1 digit. So tomorrow's lesson is multiplying by 2-digit numbers where we're going to have 2 digits on the bottom.
I thought it meant on
Like basic facts. It's not basic facts. Yeah, no. That would be way too easy for you. Come on. All right. So in your notes, you can write Chapter 2, Lesson 9. Sure. Yeah, go ahead and sharpen. Today's date is 9/1. Our essential question is the same as it's been for this entire chapter. Now, we only do have 2 lessons left, today and tomorrow. So we're almost finished with all these strategies, but we've learned tons of strategies that can be used to multiply whole numbers. And today is just one more. Today we're learning the standard algorithm, which is the usual way of multiplying numbers. So we're going to put the bigger number on the top, the other number on the bottom, and we're going to start multiplying it through. Okay? So this is one more strategy for you. Here is your problem of the day for your whiteboard. The product of 3 consecutive whole numbers is 720. What are the numbers, and show your work? So let's break this problem down really quick so we know what they're asking.
What?
As soon as I wait for all of the noise to stop.
Okay.
Let's wait for the noise. Here are the clues I see in here. I see 3 consecutive whole numbers. I see the word product. And I know that the answer has to be 720. So I'm going to have 3 numbers that when I multiply them together, it's going to equal 720. Okay, now this part, consecutive, means that the numbers are in order. And we did one like this the other day, but we were adding instead. So you're thinking about 3 numbers that when you multiply them together, they get 720. Try to think for a second.
8 times 9 times 10.
He got 8 times 9 times 10. Anybody else get that?
Yeah, he got it.
So,
Well, he asked.
okay. That doesn't work as a good answer. If we multiply 8 times 9, what do we get? What is 8 times 9?
8 times 9 would be 72, and then you do the 10 thing, and then you add a 0 at the end, which would equal 720.
Zen Station, did you hear what Nolan is saying? I didn't think so. Listen closely. Over here too. When everyone's quiet, I would love for you to repeat. Okay, try again.
I got 8 times 9 times 10 because 8 times 9 is 72 if you know your basic facts. Then times 10, you do the strategy that we learned, which is we add a 0 at the end. We learned
So,
this chapter.
So 8, 9, and 10 would be 3 consecutive numbers. When I came around looking on your boards, I saw lots of things like 100, 101, 100, or 100, 200, 300, or things like that.
Those are not consecutive.
They are not consecutive numbers. So the whole point was that numbers had to be consecutive. Once you chose one set of consecutive numbers and it was way too big, that should have let you know that you needed to cut your numbers down a lot. That's what I wasn't going to tell you because I wanted you to figure it out. I wanted you to figure it out. Okay.
1 times 22 times 23. I think I got that way.
We're multiplying by 1-digit numbers. So in your notes, just quietly, silently look over into your notes. I need you to write, make sure that you have the lesson title, which is multiply by 1-digit numbers. Here's what I want you to have starred here. So here's your first set of information. You should always multiply the ones column first. So when we're in this, today is not going to be as important as it will be tomorrow when we have 2-digit numbers on the bottom. So today we're just going to have a 1-digit on the bottom, but you're always going to line up the numbers into the right, all the way to the right. So you're lining up ones underneath ones, and tomorrow we'll be lining up tens underneath tens. Okay? The other thing is that you're always going to have to regroup when necessary. And then we're going to talk about what regroup is if you forgot. Regrouping is if I multiply 6 times 3 and the number is 18, I would have to regroup by putting the 1 above in the tens place and put the 8 underneath the ones. Okay, that is called regrouping. So sometimes we call it that you carry the 1, things like that. It's really what you're doing is you're regrouping. So you're taking a set of 10 little ones and you're making them into a long over in the tens column. So every time we regroup, that's what we're doing. So we're just going to do several examples in your notes, and then we'll do a few on the whiteboard and see what you get. Hopefully this lesson feels like review to you, because it should. You've done this for a long time. So here's our first example. 53 times 4. So before I start my problem, because I know you might have already started, before you start, I would think in my head, which you don't have to write down, but you should be thinking this, that this is kind of like 50 times 4. 50 times 4 would be about 200. So 53 times 4 is going to be somewhere close to 200. That is why we did the estimating lesson yesterday, so that as we're working on today's lesson where we're finding the exact answer, you should be using your estimates to make, just to kind of like double check your answer and make sure they're right. Okay, so you could, some people like to do their estimating first and some people like to do their estimating second, and you could do it either way, as long as you're doing it so that you're checking your work. So we start here in the ones column. That's what our star said. So 3 times 4 is 12. So I'm going to carry the 1, regroup it, and put the 2 underneath. This is called regroup. That's what I did. So when I'm asking you to regroup a number, that's what that means, is when I carried the 1.
I don't get it.
So I multiplied 4 times 3 and I got 12. And because I'm multiplying in this column right here, I can only fit 1 digit underneath. So the 1 has to go up here in the next column. Now I'm going to multiply the 1s, which is the 4, by the 5, which is 20. And then I have to add the 1 to it. So the 1 that I've regrouped has to be added. So 4 times 5 is 20. Then I add the 1, gives you 21. So then your final answer would be 212. And if you look at your estimate that we made an estimate of 200, which is close to 212, and so I know that my answer is probably correct. We're going to do more examples. I'm seeing some confused faces. Go ahead. Here's example number 2, 26 times 3. So in my head, I'm thinking, 26 is kind of like 25 times 3, which would be 75, kind of like 3/4. So I changed the 26 to a 25 because that's a number I can multiply easy in my head. So I know that my final answer is going to be somewhere close to 75. It's not going to be exactly 75, but it will be near that. So now I'm going to multiply starting in the ones place. 3 times 6 is 18. So I need to regroup the 1 in the tens place, and I'll put the 8 underneath.
Wait, the answer is 618.
Wait till we're finished. And no, that's not the answer. So,
Oh, then it's only.
okay. So then 3 times 2 is 6. And then the regrouped number I would add to it, which would be 7. And so my final answer is 78.
What?
78. 3, watch what I'm doing. 3 times 6 is 18. So I carry the 1, regroup it, and I put the 8 underneath. 3 times 2 is 6, and I add the 1 that's on top of the 2, and that makes 7. So now my final answer is 78, which would make sense because my estimate was 75, and that's really close.
Can you do more?
Angelina, yes, we're going to do more. So Angelina says that her estimate was 60 because she did 20 times 3. And so 60 is still close to 78. So it depends on how much you change the numbers. This is what I was telling you yesterday. If you change your numbers vastly, like if you changed a 26 down to a 20, it's going to change your estimate by a lot. It's going to make it a lot lower than what your actual answer is. So the closer you can keep the numbers to the actual number that it was is going to be easier. It's going to make it a more accurate estimate. Boys, go ahead and sharpen your pencil. Try this one. See if you can do that one on your whiteboard. I mean, not on your whiteboard, in your notes. Okay, so my estimate, maybe I would estimate 38 at 40 and multiply that by 5, because I'm trying to only change one of the two numbers, if you've noticed, because if you change both, it's just going to change your estimate a lot. So if I just change one of the numbers, I can do 5 times 4 is 20, add the other 0 on, so my estimate is about 200. So that should be about what my actual answer is, somewhere close. So watch this. 5 times 8, that's where I start. Hold on. That's my estimate. In the little bubble, that's my estimate, because we're thinking that.
We have to do the estimate on the
You have to
bubble?
think that. I'm thinking that. Okay, now 5 times 8 is 40. So I regroup the 4, put the 0 underneath. And now 5 times 3 is 15. And I have to add the 4 to it. So 5 times 3 is 15 plus 4 is 19. So then my final answer is 190.
I got 160.
Okay, look at your work and see what you did. Look at my work and look at your work and see what's different. That's why I wanted you to do a couple by yourself. Did you put a 1 above the 3? Like, try to see what you did. Should be a 4 above the 3.
Oh, because I only added.
Okay, here's another example. Let's do 262 times 5. Nothing changes here as far as what it is you're being asked to do. The only difference is that this problem has a number that goes to the hundreds place and the last one didn't. You just keep doing the same thing over and over again though. So my estimate, maybe I'll estimate that at, you could do a couple of different ways. But if you did 250, you could do that times 5. Because I know that 25 times 5 is 125 with a 0 on the end. You could make it 260. You could make it just 200. You can make it 300. You're going to get numbers close. So if I'm multiplying 5 times 2, I get 10. 5 times 6 is 30. And then I add the 1 to it, makes it 31. See how I continue to regroup? 5 times 2 is 10, and now I'm adding 3 to it, which makes 13. So my final answer is 1,310. Yes?
I was thinking on the map, I looked at the page, and it says compared to the estimate. Then it has a line, then it has the squiggly
Yeah.
equal sign thingy, then it has another line. Which order do you put it? Estimation first or answer first?
The one by the squiggly line is the estimation. That's where you would put the estimate.
There's a squiggly line in the middle.
Oh, because they're trying to show you that your estimate is almost equal to your actual answer. It doesn't matter, either one. You just make sure you're showing your actual answer. Don't start yet, though. Shouldn't be started yet because we haven't gotten that far. That's part of it, maybe. That's maybe why you're not getting it. Look at your example. Example number 1. Math page example number 1. Keep your notes out. Don't put your notes away. Voice is off so we can continue. Example number 1 says Grace and her 3 friends each paid $38 for an admission ticket to an amusement park. I paused because I'm waiting for people to stop talking. I want to make sure you're listening to this. Let me start again. Grace and her 3 friends each paid $38 for an admission ticket to an amusement park. The total paid can be found by multiplying 4 and 38. So yesterday we had a question like this, but it said about how much did they pay. Today, it's not an estimate. We're finding the exact amount that they paid. So we're always going to put the number with 2 digits on top of the number that only has 1 digit. Because in multiplication, you can multiply numbers in any order that you want and still get the same answer. Okay, as long as you're multiplying. It can be any order you want, just like adding. So we put the 38 on the top. And then the 4 on the bottom. So step number 1 is to multiply 8 ones times 4, which is right here. So I get 32. So a 3 there and a 2 underneath. Then we multiply the 1s with the 10s, which is 3 times 4 is 12. I would add the 3 to that, which gives me 15. So it looks like they've paid $152. $152 for their tickets. Let's look at the next slide and make sure what we need to fill in here on the blanks. So the total amount paid for admission to the amusement park is $152. And do you see how over here they showed you an area model? That's one way that you can check your work. That is a way you could check your work. So using the estimate was one thing that we learned yesterday, but you could use an area model like this if you wanted to check too, if you're more comfortable with breaking it down to say 4 times 30 is 120, 4 times 8 is 32, and then you add those together. Just another way to check your answer. Example number 2 says 317 times 5. So do you see at the first step that they have up there is to think of what the estimate would be? So 300 times 5, it looks like your estimate would be 1,500, right? 1,500. So your answer is going to be something close to that. So we're going to do 7 times 5 first. Remember, we start with the 1s. That's 35. Then 5 times 1 is 5. You add the 3 that you regrouped, which makes it 8. 5 times 3 then is 15, and there's no numbers that you had to regroup that time. So now our final answer is 1,585. Now here's what Nolan was asking a minute ago. It says compare to the estimate. So it says to check your work compared to the estimate. So you have 1,500 as our estimate and 1,585 as our actual answer. So it doesn't really matter which order you put those in, as long as we know which one is your actual answer and which one is your estimate. So maybe you want to put a box or a circle around your actual answer, something like that, if they show you that on the actual assignment. Okay, if they show you that, then maybe use a highlighter or use your pencil to put a circle or box around it, just so we know which number was your... We would, but for tomorrow when you're correcting, it might make it faster if you have a box around those. Okay. I thought you were asking me something. Okay. So here's your guided practice. I want you to work on the guided practice for a minute or two. Check it with people around you. And then you can start on the independent practice.